Hello and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, hi, I'm Cassidy. If it's not, thanks for always tuning into my videos. Today we are doing 5 political fantasies that I think everybody should read. I'm not going to say that these are the most unheard of political fantasies ever, but I'm hoping that they might be a little bit new to you, or at least you didn't know that they were political heavy or anything like that. But I just thought this would be a good reference video for anyone who's interested in getting into political fantasies. I think that these are great places to start, and I'm hoping to continue doing this and add more to this list in future installments of like political fantasies you should read as time goes on. Let's talk first about what a political fantasy is. For me, political fantasy is about books that focus on the politics of the world. So whatever human or benign that makes the world flow in a certain way, and like shapes society as a whole. So like their governing body. This could be humans, this could be gods. You could see it in a bunch of different ways, but there is a focus on the things that make and change a society. Political fantasy also tends to mirror things that happen in our own world. It is the politics of our society that we tend to see showcased in new ways that bring nuance to a story. And it just is a beautiful narrative and discussion on politics, essentially. I don't know how else to explain it. Like, political fantasies involve politics. I don't know if that helped you. There's a focus on, like, the distribution of power and things like that within the story. I shouldn't do these little segments where I'm trying to like define something, because let's be honest, definitions in reading, everything is up to our own interpretation, and if you don't agree with me and my definition, that's 100% okay. But that's just like what I think of when I hear political fantasies. We're focusing on the leaders and what moves citizens and the governing bodies. But I have 5 political fantasies today that I think everybody should read. They are obviously some of my favorites. Let's start with my number 1 favorite book, The Poppy War. This definitely, I think, leans heavier into the military than the politics, but the politics are here. I think most military fantasies are political fantasies, but not all political fantasies are military fantasies, if that makes sense. The Poppy War follows our main character, Rin, who is a dark-skinned peasant orphan girl from the Rooster province. She isn't going to amount to much, so she decides to study and take the, what is it called? Some sort of test, that if you get in the highest percentage, you get a free scholarship to the best military academy there is. And guess what? She passes with flying colors. She ends up with this scholarship. She goes to this military academy and she has to deal with a lot of prejudice because someone like her was never meant to be able to make it to where all these other people are. So she has to deal with like racism and a lot of societal issues just there. And from there we follow Rin into the military and into what she becomes. Within the military, you see like the politics of the world happen, and I think that this is a very, very strong contender for a political fantasy. And the fact that I mentioned earlier that political fantasies often take things from our own world and they're like mirroring things about humans. This one is based on real life events. There are some heartbreaking things that happen in this that are real life events, and R.F. Kuang discusses them and does it very beautifully to make it hit harder because they are real. And it's just chef's kiss, and I strongly recommend this. I know Rin is an unlikable character, but I personally love her, but I do think, like, going into it, you have to know Rin makes stupid decisions. Rin is the character that you are yelling at. But at the same time, all of her decisions felt real to her character, and she always had real motives for me on why she was doing these things. It wasn't just, like, a random decision. It was a stupid decision, but it made sense for her. But yeah, definitely one of my recommendations for a political fantasy. Also for a military fantasy. Next up, we're going to put the City of Brass series. I don't own the first book in the series, so I'm holding up the second. And this is a beautiful series. It is one of my all-time favorites, and I'm always recommending it. When people tell me they want to get into fantasy, this is one of the first series I recommend. It is so well done. The characters are done well. The world is done well. The political intrigue is done well. This follows the city of Daevabad, and we follow two characters. We follow Nari, who is a thief from the human world, from Earth. She accidentally does magic and then has these creatures after her, and a djinn comes to save her. And Nari learns that she's actually descendants of the ruling line of Daevabad, and that causes a whole lot of disrupt and trouble, and not only for Nari but the city of Daevabad, because they thought that that line died off, and they now have new rulers in place. You follow Nari as she learns Daevabad, she learns the world, and she learns her place in it, but then you follow another character, Ali, who is the second son to the current ruler of Daevabad, and in his POV you see so much of the politics in the world, and I know a lot of people love Nari over Ali, but I loved Ali's chapters. I found that learning about Daevabad and learning the ins and outs of how it works, the like little mechanisms that make a city like this work, that keep it going, and I felt was so interesting. You get to see two very different sides of the world through them. It's done so beautifully well with like a play on like politics, and like Ali is the second son. He doesn't believe always in what his father is doing, and you see like the politics between those two clash. It is chef's kiss, so good. Everybody please read the Daevabad trilogy. So good. It is also based on Middle Eastern mythology and lore. Next on this list is a new favorite for me, and it is the Aurelian Cycle. I believe that's what this trilogy is called, by Rosaria Munda. This is a YA political fantasy, and I'm obsessed with this book. I read it this year, and it's currently my favorite book I've read this year. Like, hands down this series, favorite book I've read this year. This is everything you could ever want in a political fantasy book, I feel like. We follow two characters. We follow Lee and Annie, and when the regime is taken down, they become orphans, and they grow up within this new regime together and decide to become dragon riders. We learn that Lee is a son of the old regime, and Annie is a peasant serf in the old regime. And now in this new regime, they're supposed to be on equal footing, but you clearly see that they aren't, and how they were raised and the privilege that they've had impacts them. And this series is just incredible. I felt everything for these characters. I was angry with them, I yelled at them, I cried for them, I loved them, I was cheering for them. Any emotion I could have, I was on a roller coaster with these characters. I felt what they were feeling in this series, and I think the way that it's done is incredible, and Rosaria Munda deserves so much more fans of this series. Like, it is so good. It's chef's kiss, brilliant, amazing. I need more people to read it. The politics are obviously done because they are trying to be dragon riders, which are kind of part of the governing body, and the dragon riders are like the militia force that keeps the rules and keeps the peace and does some things. And you just definitely get to see these characters struggle with their ideals and what they have been wanting for the country and the regime versus what you have to do sometimes. And it's so good. The conversations in this, chef's kiss. Please read. Next is Elantris by Brandon Sanderson, which is also another one of my all-time favorite books. I need to read more political fantasies because I just love them so much. So Elantris used to be the city of the gods, and then this thing called the Shade came, and the Shade is a sickness that strikes anyone, and it's like a curse. And once the Elantrians, I don't know what they're called, died off or left or whatever they did, the sickness started to attack regular humans. And now when you get the sickness, the curse, you are put into the city of Elantris, essentially just to die, fend for yourself. No one's gonna take care of you at all. No one's gonna, like, you're just dead. They count you as dead. And we follow three characters. Our one character, Prince Rohedin, who is about to marry his new bride, whose name is Serene, I think. And the day before his wedding, he gets this sickness, and he is thrown into the city of Elantris, and he's dead. So now our new bride is essentially a widow without ever having met her husband, and there's just a lot of politics within this as they're trying to figure things out. There is threats from outside countries happening. And then we follow Serene, who has to like be in a new city and find her place, and she's supposed to be a princess essentially, and she made this like marriage deal for peace, and now like she doesn't have it. And we follow Prince Rowadin within Elantris trying to figure out what the heck is happening. And then we also follow a religious zealot, and that adds a whole new level to the story. I loved this story. I think it's so filled with political intrigue in every corner, every page that you turn, and I highly recommend it. A lot of people think that it's Sanderson's. A lot of people don't like this one. They say it's Sanderson's, like, it's their least favorite from Sanderson. And you know what? I think it's because it's so different than anything else I've read from him. But if you're looking for a political fantasy, this is so good. But if you're just looking for something that's like The Way of Kings, which is also political, I guess, but like it's not to the level this is, then this might not be for you. But I love it, and I think more people should read it because it's chef's kiss so good. It's my favorite Sanderson. And the last series on this list is the Burning Blade and Silver Eye series by Django Wexler. This starts with Ashes of the Sun. I think you see the politics in this more as like a series as a whole and less like within the first book, but they are definitely there because you're following two siblings who are on opposite sides. So you follow Geyer and Maya, who were separated when they were quite young. The Empire came and took Maya away, and she grew up within the Empire. And then Geyer, not loving what happened when he was young, ends up joining like the rebellion and trying to take the Empire down. You can guess that the politics come from the different beliefs that we see both our characters have, but we also see similarities in their beliefs. This book is so well done because both of our characters' arcs, our characters' journeys mirror each other so well, even though they're on like different paths. And I think it's like beautifully, beautifully done. I do think that we see a lot more of the politics in Maya's chapters as the series goes on, just because you are seeing how the Empire rules, how the Empire makes decisions, how the world works due to the Empire. But I think that you cannot pretend that nothing political happens in Geyer's, because Geyer lives in like this city underground, and you see different politics happening within that city and like the different like mentalities of living in desperation and what that does, and like the war that happens within there. And like there's a lot of politics in every chapter of this in small ways, and then I think at the end of the series you can see the overall arc of the politics as well. I loved this one. It was one of my favorite reads of last year. It was such a fun experience. I love these characters. I think it's just a fun book, and I really, really enjoyed it, and I definitely have been recommending it to people. It is technically, our friend Rachel calls it gay fantasy Star Wars. It is inspired by Star Wars. The author has confirmed this himself, and there is a sapphic romance in this that is also really good. And I hope that you enjoy this series if you pick it up. I think it's chef's kiss. So there we have it. 5 political fantasies that I think every single person should read. If you're looking for political fantasies, these are all great places to start. I think that they are easily digestible in reading format. I also think every single one of these has a good audiobook. Actually, I don't know if I ever listened to Elantris, but I enjoyed the audiobooks for all the rest of them for sure. Yeah. Thank you so much for hanging out and watching this video. Let me know down below if you have any recommendations for political fantasies. I'm a huge fan, so I'm always looking for more to read. Definitely, I do lean towards military fantasy within my politics, but that's not like the be-all end-all for me. And if you just want to leave an emoji to let me know you were here, leave me... Let's do a crown emoji, because like they tend to be the rulers of the realm in political fantasies. And then if you want to connect with me on other platforms, my Bookstagram, my Book Twitter, my Goodreads, and my Patreon are all linked in the description bar below. Have yourselves an absolutely remarkable day. I don't know why these are on, but like I felt like they looked cute on my head, so I kept them on.